Section 4. Once you've done your budget sketch, I think a nice place to start, and again, it can be iterative, but a nice place to start is to have a title for your project so that you know what you're talking about. A good place to begin with a title is to repeat the donor objectives back to them. This can be really boring. But if their fund is called Research and Innovation Systems in Africa, one of their objectives is innovation. It says in Africa. So what did I call our project? Innovative Manufacturing in Africa. And what's it about? It's about supporting systems for innovative manufacturing in Africa. Repeat the donor objectives back to them. We want to fund youth mental health in Ghana. What does your makerspace call its project? Youth mental health in Ghana through making. There's the name of the project. So it's kind of repeat back to the donor what their objectives are in the title. That's a good place to start. There's a fantastic budget just appeared in the in the chat as well. Thank you for that. Great. From our friends in Nigeria. So one way to go is to repeat the donor objectives back to them. Having a good title can bring the team together and can bring the idea together. So you might not really know what you're going to do because the opportunity is so broad, you don't really know what you're going to do. You could do lots of different things for that particular opportunity. Having a good title and having that express what the idea is can really help you to write the rest of the bid. You've got your budget sketch, you figured out what you want to do, what you're going to call it. It brings the team together, it brings the idea together. Think about language in your title. Innovative. This is new. A lot of people have never heard of a makerspace. Can you imagine getting so far in life without ever coming across a makerspace? I feel so sorry for these people. But some of them have never heard of a makerspace. Because they've never heard of a makerspace, don't put makerspace in the title. Say innovative manufacturing in Africa, not makerspaces in Africa. Innovative manufacturing in Africa repeats their objectives back to them, and it helps you to communicate who you are. You are all innovative manufacturers using manufacturing innovations to do your work. Think about your language. If you're doing something that's a bit edgy, you could, something that's not been done before, you could use words like experiment. If you could think about action research instead of experiment, and the word research. This is an exploration, this is something new, this is novel. For a lot of the people you'll be applying for money from, they've never heard of makerspaces. So it might be a new thing to them. They've spent the last 40 years funding hospitals and schools and universities. They know what they are. They don't know what a makerspace is. Please don't include the word project in your project title. We know it's a project. You're going to be bored of saying project. Don't say project. And don't use words like aim. With the aim of helping refugees in Kakuma, refugee camp in Kenya. No. You don't aim to, you will. Helping refugees in Kakuma refugee camp. Not aiming to help refugees. Don't say things like that in the title. Just get rid of it. you know what Facebook used to be called? Facebook used to be called the Facebook. What a stupid name. And then it got rebranded Facebook, and suddenly it's a noun. It's a name, it's a noun, and everyone calls it Facebook now. So get rid of unnecessary language like project and aim. There are other words you can use occasionally in a project title. If what you're doing is if you're not sure if it's going to work, use the word towards the idea of something that works. We're going to move towards this. We may not actually do it, but we're going to move towards it. That's quite a useful word to use. And see if you can make it memorable, such as using alliteration, repeating the consonant sounds. It's nice to have a good acronym, but please try to avoid acronyms if you can. If your organization is called TMG Makerspace, your name is an acronym, right? Then perhaps take this as an opportunity to spell it out. But there could be occasions when you just need to use an acronym. Or you could write a title, because the title's so long and complicated, you need an acronym to make it short. So think about how you want to use acronyms. Right, here's some examples. I'll go through these quickly. One of the biggest projects I ever did, a couple of $1 million during the COVID pandemic. Really complex project. Makerspaces in Bangladesh, in Iraq, in Kenya, in Uganda. Makers and makerspaces and manufacturers all doing things to make PPE. Why? Because they were protecting the front line. They were protecting health workers. So we just called it protecting the front line. We were matching supply and demand. There were 3 or 4 different apps and platforms in there. It was a big and complicated project. Why? Protecting the front line. Towards the mass customization of wash kits. There's an acronym in there, water and sanitation hygiene, but the donor knows what that is. Everyone just, people know what the term wash kits are for that particular donor. You're not going to achieve mass customization in the project, but you're going to go towards mass customization. That was a good project title. And honestly, when I said that, this is the project title, everybody just went, yes, we get it now. We're organizing around that. And that's what I mean about doing the budget sketch first and the project title second. Everyone can get behind it. You can change the project title later. You can change the budget sketch later. But at least you begin to organize. One of my grants was called the Internet of Production. We literally put the entire organization into the bid. So and the organization was called Internet of Production. So we called the grant Internet of Production. We put the whole organization in. Innovative Manufacturing in Africa, we've talked about. That's the name of this project. It's match funded by the African European Maker Ecosystems Project. African European Maker Ecosystems is abbreviated, is turned into an acronym that we just call MAKE. The acronym doesn't make sense. Because it should be AEME. What? The acronym doesn't make sense. But we called it the MAKE project, with A as capital and E as capital because it's about bringing Africa and Europe together. So the acronym doesn't even need to represent what the words are, just give it a good acronym. One of the projects I want to do, I still haven't quite got funding for this, is reducing violence in places like South Sudan or Iraq and helping people, particularly young men who are tempted into extremist groups, away from extremist groups. So by making things, helping them to make things and then sell things and earn a living. So the project, the project name is Make Things Not War. That's what we're going to call it. And we're organizing around that. Make things not war. And the idea is to stop young men joining terrorist groups by helping them to make things that aren't just weapons. But maybe they can make and sell medical devices. Maybe they can make and sell furniture. That's the idea of that project. And then I talked about alliteration, repeating the sounds. Rapid response research. I had a project called Rapid Response Research. And what was it? Well, when a disaster happens, you fly in a bunch of researchers. That's all it was.